The fastest player in WNBA history to record 1,000 points and 500 assists. Games needed to reach the mark, 59 games. Wow. Number 2, Sue Bird at 82 games. Wow. 23 games quicker. Aliyah Boston, can we just keep it real? Are we seeing $6 million worth of basketball out of Aliyah Boston? I'm just wondering. I'm officially saying it out loud. I mean, Lord knows, like I say, I'm hanging out in the Ben Daniel watch party stream. I got to tell you, Aliyah Boston takes...
Someone finally said it out loud, and it changed everything. In a late-night stream after another Indiana Fever loss, a host casually dropped a question that's been building pressure behind closed doors for weeks. Are we actually seeing $6 million worth of basketball out of Aliyah Boston? That's not casual criticism. That's an audit. That's a front office member asking themselves whether the investment is working. And when you're paying that kind of money to a franchise cornerstone, when you're putting that much capital into one player's development and production, the fact that anyone is wondering means something fundamental is broken. The Fever aren't just losing games right now. They're losing confidence in the entire structure holding them together. And this particular loss to Golden State wasn't just another disappointing box score to move past. It was a symptom of something much deeper that's been quietly festering beneath the surface. This wasn't about one bad night or one player having an off game. This was about a team that's been fracturing while everyone was distracted by the Caitlin Clark hype machine, while the league was celebrating unprecedented rookie numbers. But behind the headlines, something darker was happening. Something the numbers were trying to tell us all along. Let's start with what actually happened on the court that night, because the numbers tell a story that box scores alone can't capture. When you break down the actual performance, you see something that goes beyond a simple loss. Monique Billings, brought in as a significant free agent addition this offseason with real expectations and real money attached, put up 4 points on 1 of 2 shooting in 19 minutes. Now, everyone has bad games. Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement. That's basketball. But when you're a free agent signing meant to address a specific weakness, meant to provide depth and production, and you're delivering single digits on minimal volume, that's not a bad game. That's a signal that the free agent strategy didn't work. That's a data point saying the front office made a mistake. Lexi Hull, another starter you expect to produce meaningful minutes and meaningful points, finished with 5 points on 2 of 7 shooting across 23 minutes. She was supposed to be part of the solution. She was supposed to help space the floor and create opportunities. Instead, she was part of the problem. When your front court is supposed to anchor you defensively, when they're supposed to create space for your best players through shooting and positioning, and instead they're combining for single-digit production and inefficient shooting, you don't lose because of luck. You don't lose because Golden State got hot. You lose because the fundamental math stopped working. This is where it gets critical. A lot of people look at a loss and say, yeah, someone shot poorly. But that's surface-level analysis. What you're actually seeing when Billings and Hull combine for 9 points on mediocre shooting is a failure of roster construction. This is a front office that made decisions in the offseason that looked good on paper, that looked like they addressed needs, but when you actually put them on the court with real competition, they crumble. The theory doesn't match the practice. The plan doesn't work in execution. But Aliyah Boston, the $6 million investment, didn't put up stellar numbers either. 4 of 11 from the field. That's not good enough for someone making that much money, for someone who's supposed to be the anchor in the paint, the defensive presence that makes everything else work. You combine Boston's inefficiency with Billings and Hull's struggles, and suddenly your front court, the part of the team that was supposed to be solidified, the part that was supposed to give you stability, is your biggest weakness. Here's the uncomfortable truth that the host was getting at by asking that question out loud. When you're paying someone $6 million, you're not just paying them to exist on your roster. You're not just paying them to take up a roster spot. You're paying them to be a difference maker, to be someone who shows up in crucial moments, to be someone who produces at a level that justifies that investment. And through stretches like this, Boston hasn't been that player. She's been a starter who's available, who's playing her minutes, but who's not delivering the return that the money suggests she should. The question the host asked wasn't disrespectful. It wasn't personal. It was mathematical. It was a business question. In the NBA, in any professional league, when you're spending that much money on a player, there's an expectation. There's a standard. And when that standard isn't being met, when the production doesn't match the investment, someone has to ask why. Someone has to say it out loud. That's what happened on that stream. The quiet part became loud. And once it's loud, once it's been said on a platform where thousands of people heard it, it can't go back to being quiet. This is the beginning of a conversation that Indiana's front office is going to have to address. Not next season, not in the offseason, right now. Because when a roster is underperforming this badly, when your paid players are combining for inefficient production, the longer you wait to address it, the worse it gets. Now here's where this story takes a turn that changes how you should be looking at the entire Fever season and Caitlin Clark's rookie year. Something happened that night that was historic, that will be remembered as a milestone, but it happened in the context of a loss. That's almost poetic in how perfectly it captures what's happening to this franchise right now. Caitlin Clark became the fastest player in WNBA history to record 1,000 points and 500 assists combined. Let that sink in for a second. 1,000 points, 500 assists. Those aren't just numbers. Those are production levels that define entire careers. Those are the kind of cumulative stats that Hall of Famers put up over multiple seasons. And Clark did it in 59 games. The previous record holder, Sue Bird, a 4-time WNBA champion, a 6-time All-Star, one of the greatest point guards the sport has ever produced. Sue Bird needed 82 games to reach those same milestones. That means Caitlin Clark is 23 games ahead of a legend. 23 games. She's compressing what took Sue Bird nearly a full season and a quarter into her first season. She's doing this while being a rookie, while adjusting to the speed and physicality of professional basketball, while learning new systems and new opponents every single night. But here's the part that matters most. She did this while shooting 25% from the field on this particular night. She did this while having one of her worst games of the season. She did this while her team lost. That's the contradiction that defines what's happening in Indiana right now. You have historic, generational production happening in real time, buried under a loss. You have a rookie setting records that might stand for decades, and nobody's celebrating because the team is losing. The narrative is being drowned out by disappointment. Think about what that means for the league. Think about what that means for basketball fans. You should be watching Caitlin Clark's rookie year as one of the most exciting narratives in sports. You should be blown away by her efficiency, her creativity, her ability to impact winning. Instead, you're watching her put up historic numbers and wondering why her team can't win games. That's not a talent issue. That's a structural issue. That's an organizational failure to build around excellence. The Sue Bird comparison is particularly important because Bird's entire career was defined by winning. Bird was a champion first and a stat accumulator second. When Bird was putting up points and assists, she was doing it on teams that won at the highest level. The context mattered. The wins mattered. With Clark, you're seeing the stats without the wins. You're seeing the individual excellence without the team success. And that gap is growing. What Clark is doing, the speed at which she's accumulating stats, should be causing alarm bells in the league office about the competitiveness of the WNBA. If a rookie, in her first season, is putting up historic numbers and her team is still struggling to win, that's telling you something about the level of talent in the league. It's telling you that one person, no matter how good, can't carry a team to success anymore. It's telling you that building a winner requires more than just one generational talent. But from Indiana's perspective, it's telling them something different. It's telling them that they need to build better around Clark. It's telling them that the pieces they've assembled aren't good enough. It's telling them that the strategy of putting together a roster and hoping it works is failing. Clark has done her part. She's done more than her part. She's setting records. She's transforming the way the position is played. But if the team can't win around her, if the organization can't build a supporting cast that allows her to play the game the right way, then what's the point? Now here's where the story gets uncomfortable, because it reveals a coaching problem that goes beyond talent evaluation. It reveals a decision-making issue that's happening in real time, on the sidelines, every single game. Raven Johnson, still recovering from concussion protocol just a couple of games earlier, came off the bench and did something remarkable. She put up 16 points on 7 of 10 shooting. That's 70% from the field, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. She was arguably the best player on the floor for the Indiana Fever. Not the most famous player, not the highest paid player, not the one everyone came to see, but the one who played the best basketball on that particular night. Which raises a question that nobody in the coaching staff seems to want to answer. A question that's become increasingly uncomfortable as the season has progressed. If Raven Johnson is producing at that level of efficiency, if she's shooting that well, if she's playing that effectively, why is she sitting in a backup role? Why is she getting limited minutes when she's clearly one of the most efficient scorers on the roster? When your most efficient scorer is your role player, when the person putting up the best shooting percentages is the one getting the fewest opportunities, you don't have a talent problem. You have a rotation problem. You have a coach who's not adjusting fast enough to what the numbers are screaming at him. This is a classic coaching failure. This is when the coaching staff gets attached to a plan, gets attached to starting lineups and predetermined rotations, and refuses to adjust based on performance. The data is right there. It's not hidden. It's not subtle. Raven Johnson is more efficient than the starters. Raven Johnson is creating better outcomes when she's on the floor. Raven Johnson should be playing more. But instead, the coach is sticking to some preconceived notion of what the rotation should look like, what the hierarchy should be, and it's costing the team wins. Think about what this means from a player development perspective. Think about what this means for team morale. You have a player coming back from a medical issue, returning to action, and proving that she's ready to contribute at a high level. And the response is to limit her minutes, to keep her in a backup role, to not trust her with more responsibility even though she's earning it every time she steps on the floor. That's not how you build a team. That's how you waste talent. That's how you send a message to your bench players that no matter how well they play, they're not getting more opportunities. This is also a strategic failure. If you have a player who's shooting 70% from the field, you should be running your offense through that player. You should be getting her more touches. You should be finding ways to get her open looks and let her do what she does best. Instead, the Fever are playing it safe, sticking to their plan, and watching their most efficient scorer sit on the bench. It's baffling, but here's the deeper issue. Raven Johnson being this efficient shouldn't be surprising. If the coaching staff was doing their job, if they were actually evaluating their roster and understanding what they had, they would have known that Johnson was this good. They would have built the rotation around her strengths earlier in the season. Instead, it took a game like this, a game where she got on the court and put up big numbers for people to wake up and realize what she's capable of. That's a failure of coaching. That's a failure of preparation. The real question becomes, how many other players on this roster are being underutilized? How many other performers are sitting on the bench because they don't fit some predetermined plan? How many wins has Indiana left on the table because the coaching staff is too rigid, too committed to a system that isn't working, to adjust and give minutes to the players who are actually producing? This is the kind of thing that gets coaches fired. This is the kind of mistake that costs teams in the playoffs. And in a season where the Fever should be competing hard with a generational rookie talent leading the way, this kind of rotation incompetence is inexcusable. Across the floor, the Golden State Valkyries looked like the better team. And not just because they won, not just because the final score went in their favor. They looked like the better team because they understood how to play basketball at a high level. They understood spacing. They understood ball movement. They understood how to create offense through execution rather than individual heroics. Watching them operate was like watching a coaching clinic. Every pass had a purpose. Every cut was designed. Every screen was set for a reason. It was basketball that made sense. Veronica Burton, almost quietly, almost like it wasn't even happening, dropped 25 points. That's not a flashy stat line. That's not the kind of scoring explosion that makes highlights. But it's the kind of production that wins games. It's the kind of scoring that comes from good positioning, good reads, good execution. Burton was efficient. Burton was in rhythm. Burton was playing the right way, and the Fever couldn't stop her because they couldn't figure out the defensive scheme. They couldn't adjust. They couldn't react. Gabby Williams added 19 points on 6 of 14 shooting. Again, not the most eye-popping numbers, but effective numbers. Numbers that helped Golden State win. Williams was getting opportunities. Williams was involved in the offense. Williams was making plays. And the only reason the game stayed as close as it did at the end is because Williams missed 2 free throws that could have iced the game completely. Those 2 missed free throws are the only reason anyone even remembers this game as competitive. Without them, this is a blowout. This is Golden State showing the Fever how big the gap really is. But the real story of this game wasn't about individual scorers. It was about how Golden State played as a team. They ran in transition. They moved the ball side to side. They created offense through spacing and execution. When one player was covered, they had another player ready. When one option was taken away, they had an alternative. The Valkyries played like a team that had a system, that understood the system, and that executed the system. Indiana couldn't match that rhythm. Indiana couldn't generate the same kind of ball movement. Indiana couldn't create the same kind of spacing and offensive flow. The difference between these two teams wasn't talent. It was basketball IQ. It was coaching. It was system. Golden State won because they had better structure. They won because every player understood their role. They won because the offense was designed to create advantage and opportunity. Indiana lost because they were just sort of playing, just putting players on the floor and hoping they'd figure it out. Think about what that means. Think about the fact that Golden State, with no Caitlin Clark, with no generational talent leading the way, with just solid basketball and good execution, can come into Indiana and beat them. That's not because Golden State has more talent. That's because Golden State has better coaching. That's because Golden State understands how to build a system that works. Indiana is trying to win on talent alone, trying to compensate for bad coaching and bad roster construction with the excellence of one player. And when that one player has a bad shooting night, the whole thing falls apart. That's what the Fever should have learned from this loss. Not we need to make Clark better, or we need more talent. The lesson should be, we need better coaching, better system, better execution. Because Golden State proved that you don't need superstars to beat Indiana. You just need to play better basketball. You just need to have a system. You just need to execute. The Valkyries won ugly. The game wasn't pretty. But ugly wins still count in the standings. And Indiana learned that night that talent alone isn't enough. Execution is, system is, coaching is, and right now, Indiana is lacking in all three. But here's where this stops being just about one game, just about one loss, and starts being about something that could reshape how we understand the future of women's basketball. This is where the conversation shifts from X's and O's to something bigger, something systemic, something that's affecting player health and team structure in ways that nobody's fully accounting for yet. Reports suggest that Aliyah Boston dealt with a lower leg issue at some point during the season. That detail is important. That detail matters. And yet, despite these reports, Boston hasn't appeared on any official injury report. She's been playing through it. Or maybe she's playing while the injury isn't being officially recognized. Either way, something doesn't add up. This detail connects to a conflict that's been quietly building behind the scenes, a war that's just starting to break into the open. There's a fundamental tension building between the WNBA and Unrivaled, the off-season 3-on-3 league, where many of these same stars are now competing for serious money during what's supposed to be their time off. The issue is straightforward, and it's important to understand exactly what's at stake. When your highest paid players are playing a full professional season in one league, competing at the highest level, dealing with travel and time zones and physical wear and tear, and then immediately jumping into another competing league during the offseason, who absorbs the wear and tear, who carries the injury risk. Think about what that means for a player like Aliyah Boston. She's playing full-season WNBA basketball. She's supposed to be the franchise anchor. She's supposed to be durable and available. And then, as soon as the season ends, she's playing in Unrivaled. She's playing again at a high level. She's accumulating more miles, more games, more risk of injury. And when she comes back to the WNBA the next season, she's had no real off-season to recover, no time to rest, no time to rehab any lingering issues. The cycle just keeps going. The owners signed these players to real guaranteed money. The teams made financial commitments to these athletes, but the league didn't protect itself. The league didn't put safeguards in place in the collective bargaining agreement. They didn't anticipate that players would have competing opportunities during the offseason. They didn't build in protections for teams that are paying players serious money. That's not a small oversight. That's a fundamental failure to understand the new reality of professional women's basketball. What Boston's potential injury represents is a canary in the coal mine. It's a warning signal. It's telling the league office and the team owners that the current system is broken. You can't have players playing professional basketball almost year-round and expect them to stay healthy. You can't have them competing in 2 different leagues, 2 different systems, 2 different styles of play, and expect them to come back the same. The human body has limits. Recovery is real. Rest matters. But there's also a business component to this. When Indiana signed Boston to a $6 million contract, they were betting on her availability and production. They were betting that she'd be healthy and ready to contribute at a high level. If she's dealing with injuries because she's playing year-round basketball, if she's wearing down because the league didn't build in protections, then Indiana's investment is at risk. Their bet isn't paying off not because Boston isn't good, but because the system is broken. And this issue is only going to get worse. With expansion coming, with revenue and visibility at all-time highs, largely because of the rookie talent currently struggling on the Indiana Fever roster, more teams are going to sign more players to more money. More players are going to have opportunities to play overseas and in competing leagues. The wear and tear is going to accumulate faster. The injuries are going to pile up. And unless the league addresses this in the next CBA negotiation, unless they put real protections in place, this is going to become a crisis. The Fever losing Boston to a lower leg injury, the Fever dealing with a player who's not at full health because she's been playing too much basketball, is just the beginning of this story. So let's bring it all into focus. Let's synthesize everything that happened in that one game against Golden State and understand what it's really telling us about the Indiana Fever's future. Indiana has a generational talent in Caitlin Clark. That's not debatable. That's not up for argument. She just broke a record held by Sue Bird, one of the greatest point guards in basketball history. She did it in 59 games. She did it while adjusting to the highest level of professional basketball. She did it while dealing with a team that's not built to support her. That talent is real. That potential is undeniable. But here's what else Indiana has. They have a $6 million investment in Aliyah Boston that, through this stretch, has not delivered a return that justifies the spending. They have free agent signings in Monique Billings and others that haven't worked out the way the front office hoped. They have role players outperforming starters, which creates a rotation and morale problem. They have coaching staff that was supposed to anchor itself on defensive identity and instead is struggling to scheme open looks for their best shooter. They have an offensive system that can't function when their franchise player's jump shot isn't falling. They have bench players like Raven Johnson who are more efficient than starters, but not getting the minutes they've earned. None of these are isolated problems. That's the critical thing to understand. This isn't about one player having a bad game. This isn't about one coaching decision that went wrong. This isn't about one free agent signing that didn't work out. These are all symptoms of the same disease. This is a team that's not built right. This is a team that hasn't aligned its resources, its rotations, its offensive system, with what's actually going to win basketball games. The Fever aren't losing because they lack talent. They're losing because the talent they have isn't being maximized. They're losing because the structure around Caitlin Clark hasn't caught up to her excellence. And the longer this continues, the longer the front office delays addressing the fundamental problems with roster construction and coaching, the more damage it does. Because Caitlin Clark won't be a rookie forever. This window of excitement, this window where the league is paying attention to her, where expansion is coming, where revenue is growing, is limited. Every loss during this rookie season is a failure to capitalize on an opportunity that might not come again. Generational talents come through teams maybe once a decade. You don't get another shot at this. You don't get to wait until next year to figure out how to build around them properly. You figure it out now, or you waste the opportunity. The front office has some real decisions to make. Do they keep investing in Aliyah Boston and hoping she figures it out? Do they make changes to the coaching staff? Do they trust Raven Johnson with more responsibility and see what she can do with expanded minutes? Do they completely retool the roster and the offensive system? These aren't small decisions. These are franchise-altering choices, but they have to be made. The status quo clearly isn't working. The urgency here is real. Golden State showed them what a well-coached, well-executed team looks like. Golden State showed them that you don't need superstars to beat Indiana. You just need better basketball. And that should scare the Fever organization. That should tell them that time is running out to get this right. Because if they don't figure it out soon, if they don't align their structure with their talent, Caitlin Clark is going to be another amazing athlete on a losing team. And that's a tragedy. Here's the real question that matters, the one that the Indiana Fever front office has to answer sooner rather than later. The clock is ticking. The moment is now. If you're running the Indiana Fever right now, if you have the authority to make roster decisions, to make coaching decisions, to shape the direction of this franchise, what do you do? Do you keep building around the exact core that you have right now? Do you trust in the plan? Do you believe that with time, with development, with Raven Johnson gaining experience, with the free agent signings eventually clicking, with the coaching staff figuring out the right system, that it will all work? Do you trust the process and wait for the team to gel? Or do you blow it up? Do you make radical changes right now? Do you finally give Raven Johnson the minutes she's earning and see what she can do with a larger role? Do you demand an immediate return on that $6 million Aliyah Boston contract by either getting different production out of her or considering moving that salary? Do you retool the rotation completely? Do you question whether the current coaching staff has what it takes to maximize Caitlin Clark's talent? Do you get aggressive and make changes that might hurt short-term but could help long-term? The problem is you can't do both halfway. That's the critical point that everyone in the organization needs to understand. You can't keep Aliyah Boston in her current role while also wishing that Raven Johnson got more minutes. You can't keep the current offensive system while hoping that it magically becomes more efficient once people settle in. You can't keep the coaching staff if you don't believe in their system, and you can't change the coaching staff without committing to a new direction. These are mutually exclusive choices. You have to pick one path or the other. Building means you're investing in the current core. It means you believe that Caitlin Clark is special enough that you can build around her even if the supporting cast isn't perfect right now. It means you think Aliyah Boston will figure it out. It means you think the coaching staff will eventually find the right system. It means you're willing to accept some losses now for the promise of wins later. It means patience. It means faith in the plan. Retooling means you believe the current structure isn't going to work, no matter how much time you give it. It means you think the coaching staff needs to change. It means you think Boston isn't going to be the answer you hoped for. It means you think Johnson deserves more responsibility. It means you're willing to blow up the current rotation and start fresh immediately. It means urgency. It means action. Pick a side. Build or retool. Protect the investment or change the structure. Hold on to patience or demand immediate results. But you have to choose, and you have to own that choice completely. No hedging. No halfway measures. No trying to do both at the same time. Because that's what's currently happening, and it's not working. The way the Indiana Fever front office answers that question in the next few weeks is going to decide whether all this attention, all this money, all this historic production from a rookie who's already breaking records, turns into championship banners, or just becomes another late-night highlight reel of wasted talent on a losing team. The way they respond will determine whether Caitlin Clark's rookie year is remembered as the beginning of a dynasty or the beginning of a tragedy. The Fever have the pieces. That's not the issue. They have a generational talent. They have role players who can contribute. They have resources. They just don't have the answers yet, and time is running out to find them. The Indiana Fever are standing at a crossroads, and every game that passes is a choice being made by default. They have Caitlin Clark putting up historic numbers, breaking records that people thought were untouchable, and it should be enough. But it's not enough because the structure holding her up is crumbling. The Fever are losing games they should be winning, and they're losing them because everything around their star talent is misaligned. Free agent signings aren't working. Coaching decisions aren't working. Rotation choices aren't working. And while the team keeps telling itself that patience will solve these problems, Golden State just walked in and showed them what actually happens when you have discipline and system. The question isn't whether Caitlin Clark is good enough. The question is whether Indiana's front office is brave enough to make the hard decisions required to build around her properly. Because waiting is a decision too. And every game they lose while waiting is a game they can't get back.
routine performance in the previous game, her interior struggles against Gustafsson on Saturday. Mitchell's shot selection, Billings 8 unproductive minutes. These are individual players.
Psychological weight of watching her dismantle your team on the other end makes everything you try to do feel smaller and harder than it should. Fourth quarter, Indiana closed it out. Kelsey Mitchell went 11 for 11 from the free throw line. Perfect, not a single miss.
I mean, step back, you're late. She almost looks you in the eye.
Clark from the blind side, the steal and a bucket. Clark tries to take advantage. Hull will with a three.
And then Johannes very coolly. Two players with incredible
Caitlin Clark steps onto the floor with complete confidence, and from the very first possession
before Golden State understood what was happening.
Left with her left hand. Clark just spins away from Hayes, fades, fires and hits. What a tough two. Clark launches and hits. Pure joy.
Her fast break conversion rate for the night that separates elite players from everyone else. The 10 assists against Seattle is the number that deserves the most attention of anything she did that night. She was not just finding open players. She was finding them before they were open, releasing passes to spots that team
Fire called a timeout, which is the competitive signal that the opposing coach recognized Indiana was executing effectively and needed intervention to disrupt it. At 6:30 of the first quarter, White pulled Clark and Boston simultaneously. Portland went on a 13-2 run. The lead became a deficit. The game's competitive trajectory reversed and did not return to Indiana's direction for the remainder of the contest. The final score was 84-100. The analytical indictment of that substitute
mates had not fully reached yet, operating on a processing speed that made Seattle's defensive rotations look like they were moving in slow motion. Her reads were ahead of the defense by at least one full decision cycle on nearly every meaningful possession. And then the triple-double watch started. She needed 4 more rebounds in the second half. 4. She had the game locked in completely. The build
Clark is locked in. She has 2 points, 3 assists,